Hello and welcome. Happy New Year from Zach and I. I'm making a pair of videos where I look back at puzzles from this past year. In the other video, I looked at the puzzles I set this year, but in this video, I'm going to look at the puzzles I solved this year. So what's on screen now is the ZetaMath catalog of all the puzzles that I've solved on stream this year. And in fact, going back before that. And so what you can see if you look at this is I've solved a lot of puzzles this year. Indeed, I estimated it's about 700 puzzles that I solved on stream this year. That's not counting the ones I solved off stream or anything of that sort, any of the testing I did. Just on stream, I solved over 700 puzzles. So I'm going to give you a list of my favorite of those puzzles from the year. I believe there are 26 total puzzles in the list. It sounds like a lot, but if you compare it to the about 700 I did over about 100 streams, that's actually saying that I'm picking only like one puzzle out of every 30 puzzles that I did. I feel like that's still setting a very high bar. So all these puzzles that I'm going to mention here in this video are all excellent, and every single one of them you can go back and find a video of me live solving with chat if you are interested. So let me go over rules real quick for what qualifies for this list. So that was one of them. So it has to have been done by me. It has to have been done by me on stream. So those rules apply. So if, for example, I was weak and saw that Simon did a puzzle that I was interested in and I just immediately clicked to watch Simon do it, then it's not going to be on this list. So I think it's very possible that Jorgergander, whatever, by J. Dyer is the best puzzle of the year. But as soon as I saw Simon do that one, I had no willpower and I just watched him do it. So I did not solve the puzzle. So it's not on the list. Don't worry, J. Dyer fans. J. Dyer will be on the list. Rule number 2 is that I only put one puzzle per setter on the list. So if a setter had a bunch of puzzles that I thought were great, I picked the one I liked the best. So, and that includes puzzles with more than one setter. I just always made myself pick one puzzle per setter. Also, I want to specifically mention I only picked puzzles from this year, or at least I did my best to do so. So I wanted to particularly apologize to Star Origami. Star Origami is the originator of S-Cell puzzles. And Star Origami's original S-Cell Kropke puzzle, which is the first S-Cell puzzle I did, it was published after my Puzzle of the Year list last year, but still last year. So anyway, so it would be on the list if it came out this year. You can consider it an honorary entry if you like, Star Origami's S-Cell Kropke puzzle. But with all that out of the way, let's go over the puzzles. And by the way, I should say I'm not putting these in any particular order, except the last two are the ones I consider the top 2 most memorable puzzles from the year. The ones that I think are sort of like the best, most refined, whatever you want. But other than that, I did not really attempt to order these. All right, our first puzzle up is The Reign of Cassiopeia by Tyrgannus. Now, I will say Tyrgannus was one of the setters who gave me the hardest time deciding which Tyrgannus puzzle to put on this list, because Tyrgannus is an incredibly skilled setter. Tyrgannus is one of the people who has been setting Sudoku for the longest out of the names that you'll hear today, and it really shows in the consistent level of polish that you see in Tyrgannus puzzles. Let's see, where's row 7, column 4? In box 3, right? So so this digit, or for that matter, this digit, they're both over here in this box. Then they can't be 6 and 9. It's a good point, right? So Jay has an excellent point. If this is 6 and 9, then I would need to put 6 and 9 on here, and I can't. Those are too far apart. And the only way, because remember these 5 cells sum to at least 15, the only way that this is ever a 6 is if this is a 9. So this just can't be a 6. So now there are 2 digits from 7, 8, 9 on here, and so these are from 6, 7, 8, 9. That is really cool. I like that a lot. Tyrgannus also doesn't publish that many Sudoku puzzles anymore. Tyrgannus is one of the setters for Gap, so Tyrgannus publishes a lot of great pencil puzzles. But all of the Tyrgannus puzzles I did this year on stream were excellent, and they were all very good. It was hard to pick. I settled on this one. I enjoyed the way that the symmetry was built in the grid and the way the white dots were sort of combined with arrows. There's just a lot of novelty and cleverness in this puzzle. But I have to say the same words would be true of any of the other Tyrgannus puzzles I did on stream this year as well. If you've not done many Tyrgannus puzzles, I really recommend going back and giving them a try. Particularly, I've found that Tyrgannus, over the past year especially, has become much more humane in terms of difficulty of puzzles. So I think all the Tyrgannus puzzles I did this year, I think, were 3-star puzzles. They were all very nice. No particularly difficult steps. Very polished. Dare I say, like, bordering on Cloverian in style. So I'm going with this as my Tyrgannus puzzle, but again, take this as an advertisement for Tyrgannus's puzzles overall. Next up, I am going with the Suguru Chaos Deconstruction number 5, the Region Sum ones by Math Pesto. So the fact that there's a number 5 in the title suggests correctly that there are a bunch of these puzzles, and there are a bunch of these puzzles with a bunch of different constraints. This one happened to be my favorite. Out of all of those, I did like this one the best. But Math Pesto, I believe, originated this genre, although I also saw a very similar puzzle by Woofer and Jakhob that I really enjoyed, although I didn't do it, so it's definitely not on this list. So I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, they're a really excellent setter. I really recommend going and giving this a look. The reason I'm showing you the solution to this is A, I'm sure you're not going to remember a 15 by 15 solution, but B, it also gives you a sense of how weird these deconstruction puzzles are. This is really possibly outside the realm of what might be considered a Sudoku, for example. So when you're uploading something to Logic Masters Germany, one of the questions it asks is your puzzle in essence a Sudoku puzzle, yes or no? If I was uploading this, I really genuinely do not know what box I would check. I believe, because I think they show up in the Sudoku, that Math Pesto chooses to check yes. But for me, Dyer deconstructions solidly are Sudoku. This is another thing entirely. But it's very cool and very enjoyable, and there's lots of neat geometry stuff that sort of blends in with some pencil puzzle stuff going on through this. That was really cool. I do think that one was really hard. Not in a bad way, but I think this one was quite a challenge, but very cool. Lots of subtle and interesting logic sort of putting all of these pieces together. It's very interesting that the region sum lines, and this is what I was thinking when I knew I was going to do this puzzle today. I was sort of thinking about the fact that, like, these puzzles are all about the fact that the regions can't touch, which makes the region sum lines very interesting because they have to only touch at diagonals in order to make it work. But I think this is a master's course in how to write your own rules for a puzzle variant. Figuring out exactly what the right rule set was for making this, I imagine, took a lot of time, but it is leading to lots of just fantastic puzzles. I really enjoy these. I'm looking forward to doing more of them. Next up, we have the very memorable puzzle Sudoku Assembly Required by Saphie. So I believe this is the only Saphie puzzle I have ever done, but this is a puzzle I am sure I will remember for the rest of my life, because the rules are so simple, and yet at the same time, it's so strange. So the way it works is you're given all of these sort of jigsaw puzzle pieces, and you have to fit all of those into this 9x9 grid. You have to copy them exactly. So if you want to copy this piece and put it here, that's great, but then you have to put a 7 here and an 8 here. And then basically the puzzle is just that plus classic Sudoku. But there's a chaos construction element to it that just helps you a little bit with the jigsaw puzzle. But that's basically all there is to it. But the way that you have to end up deducing this is so cool. The pieces are so carefully designed. It's amazing that this solves. This is just, again, memorable. Hard to beat this puzzle for raw memorability of what it was like solving this. This is one of the longer solves I've done on the channel. I don't think it was the longest, but it's one of the longest. There was a lot of interaction and back and forth between me and chat trying to figure these things out and being like, is that really right? Are we sure that's true? And a lot of us sort of like going down dead ends and all these sorts of things, but brilliantly designed, brilliant, unforgettable solving experience. Woo, what a puzzle, what a puzzle. Very nice. Okay, I really loved that. Gonna be honest, I don't want to do it again, but I really loved doing it once. That was a very sweet puzzle. I might have been too afraid to do this one without it being voted for. But yeah, wow, what a puzzle. And did definitely feel like a jigsaw puzzle, which was definitely, I think, the overall idea. The way the jigsaw theme was used and carried through the solve as being a really important thing, like the setting on this is just amazing. Oh, baby, that was a cool puzzle. And I am so glad that it did not break at the very end. A very similar, but very different puzzle is this Battleship puzzle by Wisteria Fall. Was a super cool puzzle. I really enjoyed that one. It's a very cool idea. I've never seen a hybrid of these genres before, so that is cool. And I really like this sort of as a complement to the other puzzle that we mentioned, the much harder jigsaw puzzle one, in that this, I think this was a quite approachable version of the idea of sort of fitting these pieces into the grid. And I really liked that they couldn't touch each other part. I think that was cool. I think I would be down to try a version of this where you actually don't say that the given pieces have to be put in the orientation that they're given, and you get to sort of wiggle them around. Lots of potential to do a whole bunch of cool things with this idea. So great job, Wisteria. Really enjoyed that one. So I should note, this is not the only puzzle that I did this year that featured battleships. Naverio made a very epic battleship puzzle that was something like that might actually be the longest one I've done on stream. I think it was like 4 hours to solve Naverio's battleships puzzle. This one was much easier than Naverio's battleships puzzle, but it was nonetheless very cool, where you had to figure out how to put, again, these pieces into the grid in such a way that you mirrored where all the digits were and all these sorts of things. And it had this, again, really neat sort of blend of Sudoku and pencil puzzle, which is a very enjoyable mix if it's done right, and a very horrible mix if it's done wrong. But it was done very right here. And I remembered this puzzle, and this was just such a smooth and fun solve. I really liked it. Next up is that Taijitu? I can't read this font. Those are some letters that start with a T. By TotallyNormalCat and KNT. So this is a yin-yang puzzle, and this year there were many themes, but one of the themes this year was people making yin-yang and Sudoku hybrids. I think Agent probably was the most prolific of people in making that, but lots of other people got involved too. I think there were multiple, actually, that I did by TotallyNormalCat and KNT in some combination, but this is the one that I recalled the most because the way the two things are mixed together, the way the yin-yang rules and the Sudoku rules, which are skyscraper and numbered rooms rules, are mixed together was so cool. And the way the logic fit together, like, if you read these rules, and I'm not going to attempt to read them and explain them now, but if you read the rules, I feel like it would almost read like, oh, wow, that's a mess. But then when you actually solve the puzzle, everything fits together so cleanly and into such a nice sort of holistic package. I can only see one more cell over here, so the two unseen cells are both here. So the two can only go, it can't go there. The two can only go here or here. So this is a 2 or a, oh, and it can't be a 2. So this can't be a 1 or a 2, so it's a 3, which means that this is a 2. Which is to say it's gray, and this is a 9, meaning it's gray, and this is green to avoid a 2x2, and this is green to avoid a checkerboard. That was cool. Again, I really recommend this one if you're looking to get your brain bashed in just a tiny bit. I don't think this is not a 5-star difficulty puzzle, but it was certainly a very memorable one, and I highly recommend it. Next up, we have this puzzle, 2 Truths and a Lie by ICHTUES. Now, before this year, I think I had always been too afraid to do puzzles by ICHTUES because they mostly set 5-star puzzles, and their puzzles are mostly 5-star in difficulty, having done a bunch of them now. But they're also excellent. And they have a lot of cool puzzles, including tons of killer puzzles, usually killer puzzles with one single diagonal. But they also set several doubler puzzles, a doubler killer puzzle, a doubler arrow puzzle. There were a whole bunch of puzzles by them that were all excellent. But the one that stood out as best in my mind from this year was this Two Truths and a Lie puzzle. So if you've not seen a Two Truths and a Lie puzzle before, the way it works is every clue type appears in the grid 3 times. So there's 3 X's, there are 3 white dots, 3 between lines, and so on. And always 2 of those 3 are correct, and 1 of them is wrong. So one of these X's, in fact, does not actually add to 10. One of these odd circles, in fact, contains an even digit. And so on around the grid. The reason why I found this one so striking is the solve path in this was so well put together, and the aesthetics of the way everything is put together here are just sublime. Oh, wow, that's a good spot. Right, so before we were contemplating, could this be the green arrow? And this was the green arrow exactly if it went 8, 4, 2. But that would put 4 and 2 together in this arrow, and then I would need a second 2, which I cannot do. And so what that means is this is the black dot that's wrong. So this black dot is correct. So this digit now has to be high because this black dot needs a low digit on it, and it can't be here because the last low digit's on this black dot. So this is a 6 or an 8. This is a 3 or a 4. And now, right, now all of these are not 5, 7, 9. And so now the thermo is 5, 7, 9. And we get to do a dance. Woohoo! I really like these sorts of puzzles, the sort of ambiguity puzzles, you could say, because ambiguous whether the clue is correct or not. And I mean, perhaps some of it is just ego because I made the original Two Truths and a Lie puzzle, I think. But I really enjoyed solving this. I had a lot of fun with it. And I think it made a really beautiful use of the idea. Alrighty, next up, we have the first but not the last Renban puzzle on this list. So if you have paid much attention to my talking about Sudoku mechanics, I'm a strong believer that Renban is the best Sudoku mechanic out of all the Sudoku variants. I think it has the most flexibility and the most room for really unique and interesting logic. And you're going to see several Renban puzzles that really highlight that on this list this year. But this one is the third one by Kuraban. It was my favorite of Kuraban's puzzles this year. And so that's the only 9 that can go on these Renbans. Otherwise, I'd have to put double 8 here, which is not going to work. So the 9 in row 3 is actually over in this box, which now interestingly means the 9 in row 1 is in this box. That was a very unexpected sort of pachinko back and forth. If this is a 9, these have to be from 6, 7, 8. And that would give us a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. Oh, wow. Holy crap. That's awesome. Okay. That's awesome. So if this is a 9, then these become a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. But the thing is, in this universe, this 8 sees the entire 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. Holy crap. So that doesn't work. You can't have an 8 that sees the entirety of a 6, 7, 8, 9 quadruple. So therefore, this can't be the 9. So that's the 9, and that's the 8. That was an awesome spot. Awesome setting, too. That's very cool. It would have taken me forever to spot that quadruple getting hit by that 8, but wow. But I really want to call out that Kuraban has this ongoing series of puzzles where they make puzzles that use only a single constraint and then really try and lean into and figure out, like, what are the things you can do with that constraint? And a lot of really fantastic puzzles this year have come out of that series. So not just the Renban ones, which I also recommend, but all the ones in that series, I think are worth your time to look at, particularly if that idea appeals to you of sort of getting to know these things. A lot of them really stuck in my mind afterwards as being like, wow, that was a really unique way to think about Kropke or region sum lines or arrows or whatever. All of those are just really cool, and so this is my entry from Kuraban for this year. Next up, we have Build Your Own Lockout Lines by Jakhob and Woofer. So Jakhob and Woofer are quite unusually a pair of setters who almost always set together rather than solo. So a lot of setters will do a number of collabs, but almost all of their setting is collaborative, and I find that very interesting. And it really tends to show in some of the interesting ideas that pop up in their puzzles. So in this case, this is a build your own lockout lines puzzle. So you have to draw in a lockout line that connects the 2 diamonds that are labeled A and the 2 that are labeled B and so on. And the solve path in this puzzle ended up being really unique and interesting because, again, it has some of that sort of pencil puzzle pathfinding element, but it's blended really beautifully with Sudoku deductions that let you deduce things about the path. This puzzle was magnificent. I am absolutely delighted by this puzzle. It's especially impressive that this puzzle was relatively easy given the rule set. I think that was very cool. It was very well put together. So this is my very favorite sort of hybrid puzzle where there's the pencil puzzle stuff, but it interacts very closely and intimately in very interesting ways with the Sudoku stuff. So it really justifies the fact that it's simultaneously a pencil puzzle and a Sudoku puzzle in a way that I found so satisfying. I did tons of Jakhob and Woofer puzzles this year. So many of them were excellent. I did multiple pure Renban by them, which you can guess from the previous entry I was tempted to pick for this. They also had a double arrow puzzle that I thought was something really special. But looking at it and trying to figure out which of these was the most special, I think it was this one. Next up, we have the puzzle Archers on the Quad by SSG. So every once in a while, I do a puzzle, and then the puzzle is just so surprising that then the next day I'm running around trying to convince everyone I know that wasn't in the stream to go do the puzzle. And this is definitely one of those instances where it's like, Clover, you gotta go do this puzzle. Kodak, you gotta go do this puzzle. With this puzzle. This puzzle really does not look like much. If you look at the grid, you've got some quadruples and some arrows, and it's like, yeah, whatever, I've done quadruples puzzles, I've done arrows puzzles. What could there be? But the way the logic is packaged here, and the things that there are to find here, are just jaw-dropping. People are seeing a thing I'm not seeing about 8s on arrows. Okay, so here's the point. What if 8 was in those in each of those boxes? Well, if 8 was in the green cells in each of these boxes, then I would need to put an 8 on top of the 9. But that can't be the case. So 8 actually is not in the green cells in one of the boxes. So in one of the boxes, the arrow has an 8 on it. So one of these arrows, and it's not that one, there's an 8 on the arrow. So it's not that one, and it's not that one. So it is actually true in this box and this box that the 8 actually is in the green region. So the 8 in the central box is in one of these 2 cells. And now the question is, which of these arrows can have an 8 on it? And the answer is it can't be this one, because there's a 1 down here already. And so this can't be a 189 arrow. So this has to be the 189 arrow. This is a gorgeous puzzle. This is lovely. Okay, and so once that's a 189 arrow, then, well, I guess I don't have to say once it's a 189 arrow, then that's a 9. I mean, maybe. This is a 1-8. Wonderful. Not at all what I thought I was signing up for when I clicked the puzzle, but amazing. So now I guess we get to do the same thing with 7s. So the 7s here. Again, if I only put 7s in green. Wow, this is amazing. Has Simon done this one yet? Simon should do this puzzle if Simon hasn't done this puzzle yet. It's an excellent puzzle. I give this my highest recommendation. It actually chased out another SSG puzzle that was another puzzle that I was very impressed by, but this one had to win. This was just amazing again. By the way, setters out there, I think quadruples are very fun to solve with. I think they're a very cool mechanic. I think they're underused. So if you're looking for some motivation to try and set with something new, I recommend try quadruples. I think they're fun and have potential. Alrighty. Next is this puzzle by Chili made for my 100th stream, so called 100 Streams of Zetatude. And this puzzle features both doublers and negators. As well, you can see it features Renban, which I of course always love, and region sumlines, which I'm also a huge fan of. But in this you had to sort of figure out where the doublers and negators are, and which digit is which, whether it is a doubler or a negator. And it's hard maybe in this case to articulate why without going too far into the solve path, what made this so special. But the solve path and the way it makes use of the doublers and negators is really special. And in particular, the fact that it does all of this while sort of spelling out a clear picture is quite amazing. Like this O out of the 100 does so much in the puzzle. This is one of those puzzles that I quite remember solving because of just how interesting all of the interactions here were. Right. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, so the point is these two are consecutive, but these two sum to that number. And so therefore, because these two are consecutive, this needs to be a 1. Because these two are 1 apart, which actually then resolves everything. So now these add to 9. So that's a 9, and that's an 8. And now that's a 7. Okay. So now that's going to give us more. Okay, so now this can't be a 5 or a 7 or a 9 up here. So there's a 1 or a 3 on this dot. Mm-hmm. Again, I know sort of like puzzles that look like this sort of look like meme puzzles, but I think this is a very real and very awesome puzzle. And if you overlooked it for that reason, I recommend go back and give it a try. Next up, we have the puzzle Direction by Memeristor. So this is not, despite what it looks like, a vanilla arrow puzzle. This is an arrow puzzle with the rule that your arrows can't repeat. So if you have a 2-4-6 arrow, for example, then you can't have another 2-4-6 arrow anywhere in the puzzle. This is a very interesting rule, and it's used in this puzzle brilliantly. This digit can't be a 6 or a 7, because there's only one way to make a 6 length 3 arrow and only one way to make a 7 length 3 arrow. So this has to be 8 or 9. But it can't be 9. That's gorgeous. Because if this was 9, assuredly, this would show up in one of these. I don't know which, but it would assuredly show up in one. So this is in fact an 8 arrow, which means that there's a 1 in each of these things, and one of these is 1, 2, 5, and one of them is 1, 3, 4. And so actually that means that this is a triple. As we learned earlier, this is a 6, 7, 9 triple. Because this sees both a 1, 2, 5 and a 1, 3, 4, which is, as you know, sweet. This was an incredibly smooth solve. This might have been the fastest solve out of all the puzzles that are on this list. Certainly it was among the faster out of all the puzzles on this list, but it is so smooth. And the use of the fact that you can't repeat the arrows is brilliant. Over and over again throughout this puzzle. I've seen a few takes on this idea of arrows, but you can't repeat the arrows, and this is the one that really sort of stood out to me, and had just all kinds of really neat steps in it. So anyway, highly recommended. This one will not take a lot of your time, but it is well worth your time. Next up, we have Ginnels and Snickets by Tallcat. And Tallcat was another of those setters who really gave me troubles this year with identifying which of his many puzzles that I loved I would pick for this spot. And it was very hard to choose. I contemplated also the double arrow puzzle from this year, which I believe was called Split, that Tallcat made. I also contemplated the Cat's Whiskers, which is the puzzle that Tallcat made for the 500th anniversary of Cracking the Cryptics app. But I test solved that before I solved it on stream, so I don't think the solve on stream sort of really counts. So I sort of ruled that one out. And so then at the end of the day, I went with this, which uses Tallcat's most beloved between lines, but also everyone in the world's most hated skyscrapers. And any puzzle that manages to use skyscrapers in a way that makes you not want to tear your hair out, I feel is worth looking at, because skyscraper is an awful Sudoku mechanic that is just sort of designed to cause pain and suffering in the world. For the most part. But here it does something really quite special. And the way it's combined with the between lines and the precision is all just, again, this is pure Tallcat at the very best. And I enjoyed every moment of this one. I don't think I at any point threw any things. So this gets my nod for Tallcat puzzle from this year. So I think Tallcat wants me to note that this digit definitely goes in here, so that these digits are actually 1, 2, 5, 6, 8, 9 are their candidates. And so there's a 1, 1, 2, 5, 6, 1, 8, and 1, 9 included in these cells. And so in particular, there's not a 7. That's gorgeous. I love that. I am beyond impressed with that setting, because now, yes, where is 7 in column 4? And so I can't put the 7 down here because that has to go down there with the 8 and the 9. And so where's the 7 going? It's going in one of these two, but it can't go there, because if it's there, I can only ever see 3 buildings. So in fact, we get our first digit out of nowhere, and it's this 7. And so we get to do a little 7 dance. But I'm very curious, by the way, both for this setter and for other setters in the comments, I'd love to hear if for Tallcat or for some other setter, what was your favorite? If you had a different favorite than I did, or if you agree with my favorite, I'd love to hear what your favorites were for any of the other setters, or anything I just didn't mention in the video this year. I would love to hear. I said the previous Renban puzzle was not the last pure Renban, and here is another pure Renban. So this is the puzzle Renban Rocket by the Cogito. So this features some really intricate Renban geometry, and does even more to sort of again state why it is that I think Renban are just so freaking cool. They just allow for such interesting setups. Ranksk the other day was saying that he's done a ton of Renban puzzles, and he doesn't think any two of them have ever felt the same. This is just another example of that, where this is a pure Renban puzzle, but it doesn't feel like the other pure Renban puzzle that I put on this list. Doesn't feel like any of the other pure Renban puzzles that I didn't put on the list, but that I really liked this year, is they all have their own character, and this is an expertly crafted puzzle. Okay, so this is different. I could have 6 and 7 on this Renban, and it would be okay, I believe. I know there has to be a yellow one here, right? Yes, there has to be a yellow one here. So that means that these are at least 3, 4, 5, 6, and then either a 7 or a 2. Yes, it definitely has a 6. Oh, good. Okay, yes. It can't not have a 6, because then it would have to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which would see this cell. So that's not going to work. So there is a 6 on here, which does place a 6. This is a gorgeous puzzle, by the way. This is really neat. So 6 over here. So now this digit's not a 6, and so we get a random stray color out of nowhere. There's a green digit down here, which means this can't be a 7 anymore. It also can't be a 4 anymore. So this digit can only be 3 or 6, which is very interesting. I should note the Cogito tends to set really, really out there puzzles, many of which I did and loved this year. So in no way is my choosing this a slight to the out there puzzles like the 5-less Shikaku that the Cogito made this year. Rather, this is more a testament to, I think this is some of the most expert setting that you will see with my favorite Sudoku mechanic. So that is why this one won, even though this is certainly not the Cogitoiest Cogito puzzle from this year. But there are many other excellent puzzles that you can check out by them as well from this year that will cause more brain hurting than this one. Speaking of Renban puzzles, we next up have this puzzle Fragments, by Florian Wortmann. This puzzle is not a pure Renban puzzle. Not just because there's X's and V's, but because if you read the rules, there's this bonus rule that says that the Renban that are rotationally connected, so if I rotated the grid 180 degrees, this Renban would reflect onto this Renban, and this Renban would reflect onto this Renban, and so on and so forth around the grid. Those are actually one Renban. So this is a length 8 Renban. These are a length 6 Renban. And it's a simple yet strange idea, but it plays really well in this puzzle. And the way it's combined with the X's and the V's and the white dots and the black dots, it's all very expertly put together. I'm going to start with my usual write 1, 2, 3, 4 onto here. Oh, it's funny, this can't be 1, 4. This has got to be 2, 3, because if this was 1, 4, then this Renban would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but this X would then have to be 4, 6. That doesn't work. So this has to be a 2, 3. So yeah, so now this X, what is it going to be? Well, I can't repeat the 2 or the 3, and so this is either 1, 9 or 4, 6, but it's certainly not 1, 9, because then my Renban would be 9 long. So this has got to be 4, 6, which does make this 1, 9. And so one of these two is a 5, and then we either have a 7 or a 1 to go with that. Florian is another one of those people that you can tell has been studying for a while, and it really shows in the polish in the puzzles that they make. This is one of the most polished puzzles of this year, and definitely instantly got a spot on this list and knocked off whatever other puzzle Florian had in my list beforehand. If you're curious, by the way, I try and sort of maintain a list throughout the year of what I think the puzzles are that might make this list, and just sort of keep them in a list, and I keep updating the list and deleting stuff or replacing it if someone else's or someone comes out with a puzzle that I like better than their previous puzzle or whatever. Then I do go back and look over everything from the year, but I try and keep sort of contemporaneous notes so that I don't just pick puzzles that I did in the last 2 weeks, which are the only puzzles I would have any chance of remembering. These I did actually sort of take notes on through the year, although these are not being presented in any particular order with regard to time. Next. This is actually, I think this is the quickest puzzle from the list. This is the puzzle Hazy Connections by dumediat. So this is a Fog of War puzzle. So if you've not seen the way that Fog of War works, the way it works is you originally get no clues in the gray cells, but then when you enter a digit somewhere, provided that that digit is correct, so for example, if I entered a 7 here and this digit was supposed to be a 7, it will reveal the part of the grid that is hidden behind these. And so every adjacent cell gets revealed, and you also will get extra clues. So there's some hidden Renban lying behind this, there's some hidden dots and all those sorts of things. I've done a number of okay Fog of War puzzles, even some really cool ones, but I hadn't really sort of clicked to me what the potential of the genre was until I did this puzzle, which I think through the entire puzzle is constantly making use of exactly what pieces of information you know based on what parts of the grid are and are not revealed in a way that I think is just splendid. So I really recommend this one, and in fact, I liked this puzzle so much that immediately after doing this puzzle, I actually announced that the next setting challenge would be to set a Fog of War puzzle of any sort you wanted. I'm looking forward to seeing what other people come up with, because so far every setting challenge I've done has gotten me just tons of awesome stuff. I expect this will be no different. All right, next up, we have the puzzle Nothing is Wrogn by Dyer. Jay is another one of those setters who is incredibly prolific and has amazing ideas all over the place, like the fact that I'm always referring to Dyer Deconstructions, and that is just one of the things that Dyer did this year. I mentioned Jorgermunger as being a possible puzzle if I'd done it. I think the other Dyer Deconstruction, the first one, which was a killer, might also have made the list if I had done that one. But again, that was one I just watched Simon do instead of doing it myself, you know, the easier way. So this is of those that I looked at. This is the Dyer puzzle that I picked. But again, on a different day, it could easily have been a bunch of other things. But the way this puzzle works is that it uses the digits 0 through 8, and every clue is just a perfectly normal clue, except that any clue which features the digit 0 is wrong. Any clue which doesn't feature the digit 0 is correct. And that creates a really interesting mix on this sort of ambiguity, what's right, what's wrong, two truths and a lie. All these sorts of various flavors of puzzle are sort of put together here in a really neat way, because something being wrong is signaled in a very clear way by there being a 0 on it. So what black dot combinations am I actually able to make in here? I don't think I can make any. I can't make any that involve a 4, and I can't make 3, 6. So this has to be the 0. Because I need to break, both of these black dots are definitely broken. So this is my first 0. And so these are gray. And so now this, therefore, is correct, because now I can gray the rest of the column. And so now I do indeed know that this is a 1, 2, 4, because it doesn't have an 8 on it. So that's the 2. These are a 1, 4 pair, not both 9, 1, 4 pair. That's not a 1. And so that created a really fresh sort of blend of all of the things that we could possibly put in this puzzle. So I really enjoyed solving this puzzle. And the logic here was some of the coolest I've seen, and I hope to see, and I'm sure I will see many more puzzles by Jay, but this is the one out of this year that I just had to pick for my personal choice of Jay Dyer puzzle. But again, it's hard to go wrong with Jay Dyer puzzles. Next, we have this monstrosity. So this is the Sudoku Caterpillar. And this is by Clover in the sense that Clover assembled this. But what Clover did was to pull together the entire Sudoku community, I mean, not literally everyone, but something like 80 different people, to have them set one little 6x6 for this gigantic samurai puzzle. And so the idea is you start by solving the head up here that Clover made, and then once you've solved that, it then sort of links you into these 4 digits. So you then solve this Renban puzzle by Sam Kappelman Lines, and then you solve this puzzle by Grockles, and so on down the line, and you go one by one by one by one. The Renban Whisper Arrow puzzle is by me, but you will find many of the Sudoku greats are represented through here. There are many great little puzzles all scattered throughout here. This was perhaps one of the first hintings that I should consider doing something more with 6x6s, because there are so many really cool 6x6s here. So this is partially responsible for the eventual existence of the 6x6 thread that now exists on my channel. This puzzle took 2 whole streams to solve, and I solved almost all of it. Apologies to Glipperl that I did not solve the little killer puzzle. I could not quite bring myself to solve a horrendously difficult little killer puzzle in the middle of all of the rest of this. So I think if Glipperl's puzzle had shown up like way earlier in the Caterpillar, I might have still had the brain to do it, but by that point I was just like, I'm so close, let me make it to the end. And so I cheated and skipped that one and then did the rest of them. Anyway, this is an awesome experience, and I recommend, if you've not done this or not looked at this, I really recommend having a look, because I think this is an amazing accomplishment by Clover to put this together. The idea was stupendous, and then the execution on it was also amazing. And I can only imagine what wrangling all of these Sudoku creators must have been like. But she did it, and we are all the better for it. And as always, all the better for having Clover and the community overall. But this was just an amazing gift to everyone. I really, really liked this and enjoyed this. It was one of the coolest things from the year. Next up, we have the puzzle Huey, Dewey, and Louie by Crusader175. So this puzzle features a really interesting take on coloring, which is that you have to sort of divide the digits 1 through 9 into 3 groups, which are called A, B, and C. And then you have to sort of color the grid in such a way that no 2 of those digits end up ever touching orthogonally. So if this cell is a B group digit, this cell can't be a B group digit, for example. And the way that idea, which is already very cool, is combined with the arrow logic in this puzzle, just was one of those jaw-dropping moments that once I understood the point of the puzzle, it was just like, aha. It was like one of the truest and best aha moments I have had in solving a Sudoku puzzle. Like, it's sort of a single penny drop moment of, I've been solving this puzzle for a while, and now I see the thing, and I understand the thing, and holy cow, that's cool. I feel like it would be disappointing if it turned out that everything was just diagonally striped, but let's see, maybe we could prove it can't be diagonally striped. Oh, okay, got it. That's amazing. That's so cool. Okay, so if this were diagonally striped, this cell would be orange. But we can actually prove this cell's not orange for the following awesome reason. Imagine that this digit was orange. Then where does it go in box 5? And the answer is nowhere, because there's only 3 orange digits. It can't repeat on its own arrow, or this would sum to more than orange, and the other orange digit's there. So that's not orange. And so if it's not orange, it's not purple because it touches a purple. This cell's definitely yellow. Which now means this cell, which touches a yellow and an orange, has to be purple. This cell, which touches a yellow and a purple, must be orange. And we can do exactly the same trick up here. If this was yellow, it would not be able to go in box 5 at all. So it's not yellow and it's not purple, so it's orange. And so now that's purple. And now that's yellow. And I notice we've used all the purples in this column, we've used all the oranges in this column, and we've used all the yellows in this column, which tells us what color 2 is. That's awesome, because column 4 says 2 is not yellow, because all the yellows are gone. And column 6 says 2 is not orange, because all the oranges are gone. So 2 is purple. Okay, this puzzle's amazing. It's really difficult, I think, to get your solvers to have that kind of epiphany moment where it really feels satisfying and not feels like, oh, that's the thing I was supposed to see. Eye roll kind of reaction, which those of you who've watched me stream have probably seen me give that reaction to a lot of things. But this one, it's so well integrated into the puzzle. It's very well telegraphed. But it's not easy to see at first, but then when you do see it, it is just, again, amazing. So well done. Next up, we have the 5 full challenge. So this is based off the fact that I had previously had a challenge to set puzzles with no 5s. And so M Nasty set me a puzzle with as many 5s as possible. And so in this puzzle, much like doublers, there are digits that have been 5'd. So this includes the rule every digit has been 5'd once. Yes, every digit is 5'd once, which is just amazing. This puzzle is hilarious. It's very well set. It's a very good puzzle. I'm not at all implying it is a meme puzzle. It is a very good puzzle, but also it is just funny from start to finish, sort of thinking about the idea of, like, where is the 9 5'd is just a ridiculous sentence to have to say to yourself, and sort of thinking about it through the puzzle. This was one of those puzzles, again, one of those puzzles that I did, and I just had such a good time doing it that I immediately tried to get as many people as I could to do this puzzle. I don't think I was very successful, but I tried my very best to get as many people to see this puzzle as possible. The sum of these, oh yeah, I was going to try and sum some digits, but summing digits is not going to work super well with 5s. I mean, I feel like this whole puzzle is designed so that people will be bad at it, which is what makes it fun. At least for me. Like it's not quite Codex sandwich puzzle level of bad for my brain, but we're entering that territory. Mm-hmm. So I am hoping that some of you who see this video will go and do the 5 full challenge by M Nasty, because this puzzle is well worth your time. If you're having a bad day, go do this puzzle. It will cheer you up. Next up, we have the puzzle Reaching Some Region Sums by 2 to 10th. Even with everything being said about doublers, I still need a 2 or a 3. And right, if I use a doubler but not a 2 or a 3, then I'm still summing to at least 11. So there's always a 2 or a 3 on both of these. Sorry, one of these lines has a 2 and a 3. The other has a 2 or a 3. But that whichever digit it is that they have in common, where does it go in this box? It joins the 1. That's awesome. Right. So there's 2 worlds. Either these both have a 2 or these both have a 3, and that digit gets dumped into this other cell. And so now the maximum these two can sum to is 4. So this needs to be doubled in order to have any prayer of succeeding in life. And so now what's the minimum digit I could double? Because the maximum of these is 4, and the minimum of this is 15. So this needs to double to at least 11. So 5 is not big enough. And so this has to be a 7 or a 9 doubled. But 9 doubled is too big, because 9, that's awesome. 9 doubled would be 18, and the maximum this can be is 17. So this has to be a 7. And now this has to be a double 7 with a 1-2 pair. But now that is 17. And so that being 17, wow, this is awesome. That being 17 now means this has to add to 17. So it has to be 8, 9. And that 8-9 now fixes this. And so now this is a 1-2-3 for sure. And now this one, there's a little bit more mystery because it's either 1-2-5 or 1-3-4. It's very cool. I like this a lot. But I know which it is because I know where the 3 is in this box. The 3 in this box is actually, I know where the 3 in the box is. It's exactly there, which means this isn't 1-3-4, it's 1-2-5 as its final digit. I mentioned in my other video where I talked about my doubler puzzles from the year, that a lot of people had done puzzles with doublers that I liked better than any of mine. This is, in my mind, this is the doubler puzzle. This is the best doubler puzzle that I have seen. And it makes amazing use of all the mechanics. The break-in here is just amazing. Everything about this puzzle is just spectacularly made, as is always the case by 2 to 10th, who I have mentioned is my sentimental favorite setter. But this is some setting, this puzzle, just all together. Alrighty. So I've mentioned many Nevario puzzles that were in the running for being the Nevario puzzle that made the list. But the Nevario puzzle that made the list this year was The Secret Does Not Apply. So what is this puzzle? This is the 5-list puzzle of the year. So this puzzle has no 5s. It instead features the digits 0 through 9, except for 5, and then is otherwise a normal German Whisper Renban puzzle. Quote, normal. There are a lot of things I love about this puzzle, but the thing that really felt sort of like so surprising and cool and neat about this puzzle that made me pick this puzzle out of all of the Nevario puzzles is the fact that if you look at the grid, you might realize you can't set a no given puzzle with only Renban, or with only Whisper, or with only Renban and Whispers, with normal rules. But with this rule, you can. And the moment of discovery when you figure out why you can, and you figure out how to disambiguate low and high in this puzzle, was just so cool to me. I still remember it. It still stands out. Like, this is creativity in Sudoku at its finest. There are 2 total lows in these cells. There are 2 total lows in these cells. Okay. I can either do this, make all of those low, in which case yellow is low. Or I can put the lows like this, in which case now there are only 4 lows in the box, which does not work. Okay, so this is the key. If I put 1 low here, now there's only 4 lows in the box, except there need to be 5 lows in the box. And so what that means is this is not correct. I need to be putting lows in all of these places in order for this to possibly work. And in that case, I need low to be yellow. I really recommend, again, I recommend every puzzle in this video, but this is one again. I don't think this puzzle is especially difficult, but I think this puzzle is very creative in its use of all of the ideas, while also, of course, being expertly set, as you would expect from Nevario. So this is my Nevario puzzle of the year. Next up is the puzzle Sylvester by Pulverizing Pancake. So one thing you may or may not know that I really like in Sudoku is I really like classic techniques appearing in variant puzzles. And so this puzzle is a classic techniques appearing in variant puzzles puzzle. In this case, spoiler, the classic technique is fireworks. Now, that's supposed to be telegraphed by the fact that the title is Sylvester, and Sylvester is connected to New Year's in British culture? I'm not 100% sure. I certainly was not aware of this. And then New Year's is associated with fireworks, which is also not a connection that I would have made. But anyway, this is a fireworks puzzle. And so if you've never seen fireworks before, it is this classic technique that was sort of pioneered, I believe, by Shy. And it's really carefully integrated in here in such a way that you can discover it even if you've never seen it before. It's very well telegraphed and integrated in this. But it really sort of stood out to me as, yeah, this is really cool. I really like this. Either row 7, column 2, or row 2, column 7 is a 4 or 6. Oh, this is a fireworks thing. Okay, I'm glad I once watched a video with Shy explaining what a firework is. Not like I remember what a firework is. Let's not go that far. But that's definitely the right thing to think about. So So we have to understand exactly how the world falls apart if neither this cell nor this cell is a 4 or 6. Oh, okay. Tallcat has a way to phrase this, which I think is going to work nicely for me, which is, where do the 3 purples here go in row 1? So they go in 3 of these 4 cells. So 3 of these 4 cells are purple. And by symmetry, 3 of these 4 cells are purple. Now, if all 3 of these cells were purple, then that would make it impossible for me to get my 3 purples in these 4 cells. And so that means not all 3 of these are purple, which means this cell is always purple and this cell is always purple. Now I think the conclusion is we're now going to need this to be purple. I need 2 purples in there out of these 3, and I need 2 of these 3 in here. That's never going to happen if I don't make this cell purple, because if this cell isn't purple, in order to make that happen, I'm going to need 4. So this is always one of those purples. There are 4 purple values, but these are not these are not 4, 6. So these are like the good purples. So I could give them like a flash of some sort, like a gray flash here to say these are purples I know are not 4 or 6. So all of these are purples I know are not 4, 6. And that's the point. One of these 2 is a purple gray. One of these 2 is a purple gray. So this line needs to have a 4 or 6 on it. Because the only purple that the only purple that's not forced into these cells is the purple 4 or 6. So this whisper line has a 4 or a 6 on it and a 1 or a 9 on it. So it is either 6 with a 1 here or 4 with a 9 in one of the other places. Those are the only possibilities for this whisper line because the other grays are scattered across here. So this is my pulverizing pancake puzzle of the year, is this really brilliant collection of classic stuff together with German whispers in an unexpected but cool way. Speaking of classic techniques put into variant Sudoku, I feel like Jovial is the ultimate ruler of this. Almost every Jovial puzzle I do has some sort of combination of classic and variant stuff. That's probably because I'm too much of a wuss to do the Jovial puzzles that are actual classics. But this Jovial Echoes puzzle really stood out to me because you look at the puzzle and you kind of know what's going on, but also you kind of don't. And the more you dig into it, the more cool stuff you find. And I have no idea how someone would set a puzzle like this. Oh, right, because now neither of these can be 2 or 5, right? That's the point, right? Because now this sees 5 and 2. And so even if this is the 8, these 2 still can't be 2 or 5. So this now is 1, 3, 4. Got it. Okay. And so that means this is 1, 2, 5 because they're different. No 3, 4 in row 1. Right. Because these, remember, sorry, I'd forgotten this from before. These 2 digits end up in the yellow cage. And so these are 1, 2. So this is 9. And this is 5, because we needed these digits here. These aren't 9, so that is 9. And so 5 in row 1 now is forced into this cage. So this cage is a 5, 8, 9 kind of 22 cage, which means this is a 6, 7, 9 kind of 22 cage. So now, because of that 1, 2, knocking a 1 out of this, the 1 is here, so these aren't 1, and so this is 1. Oh, this is a very cool break-in. I think this is awesome. It is all so intricately put together, and the geometry of this is just so neat that I really enjoyed solving this. It's very well telegraphed what to find, but it's very difficult, I think, to find. But it's very clear what to look for. I realize that might sound like a contradiction, but I hope it's clear exactly what I mean by that. Really loved solving this. It's gotten a lot of praise, deservedly, my Jovi and Echoes puzzle of the year. Next up, we have the puzzle Double or Nothing by Tessa Rollis. So I really enjoyed a lot of Tessa Rollis puzzles this year. Tessa Rollis's vignettes tribute this year really stands out in my mind. I honestly don't know if I loved that puzzle or not. That puzzle was a lot. A lot. I'll remember it. I might love it. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask me in a year. But this puzzle I know I loved, which is a puzzle that kind of has doublers, except instead of doublers, there's also the option that the cells are nothinged. That is, they count as 0 instead of counting as double. And that was a really interesting idea that led to some interesting arrow logic. For example, the fact that almost every digit in this box is on an arrow is already quite suspicious. But you can sort of figure out what ends up going on. So the first thing I'm going to notice, just to sort of explain the logic of how this puzzle is going to work, I think, is let's look at this arrow and ask, is it possible that there are no shenanigans on this arrow? And the answer is no, it is not possible that there are no shenanigans on this arrow. Because if there are no shenanigans on this arrow, then I would have a single digit number is equal to a sum of 4 numbers, which would be at least 10. So if there were no shenanigans at all, this would break. So there are shenanigans somewhere. And now what that means is every cell that sees every yellow cell can't be a double or nothing cell. So none of these are double or nothing cells. Okay, now there's several places in this puzzle where we can repeat this trick. This arrow also needs shenanigans. So these 2 cells can't be thing. There absolutely have to be shenanigans along this arrow because now the circle is now safe. So none of these can be shenanigans. One of these 2 cells has to be shenanigans because of this length 4 arrow. So that clears everything else in the column. Those are not shenanigans. Can this be a double or nothing cell? If this was a double or nothing cell, it would make both of these arrow circles normal, and I would be summing these, and that would sum to at least 21. That's not going to work. So this cell's actually safe, which means that this is a double or nothing cell because I need one in the column. One of these has to be a double or nothing cell for the box, so these aren't. Now this one has to be because this arrow has to have shenanigans on it, and so all of these are not. Now there has to be one on this arrow because there's not in the circle, so these are safe. But the way this was put together really was interesting, and there were a lot of neat sort of like arrow puzzles with doublers of various sorts. There's also one by ICHTUES that I really, really liked. But the twist in this one, this was just the right twist, just the right amount of like take what's just a vanilla Sudoku and put just the right amount of twist on it. So really loved this. All right, so we're now up to the top 2 puzzles of the year. So these 2 puzzles are at complete opposite ends of the spectrum of craziness. So I can't choose which of these is genuinely my favorite, I suppose, in a way. One of them is by Andrew Sarkis, and the other is by Abed Awila and Mr. Menace. Take your guess as to which of those is at the high craziness end and which of those is at the low craziness end. That's right. If you guessed that the Andrew Sarkis puzzle was the high craziness end one, you were correct. There were always all of these jokes as soon as S-Cells became a thing about who's going to make an S-Cells chaos construction puzzle. And I think multiple people made S-Cells chaos construction puzzles, but this is the one that stands out in my mind as being the best. As you can expect from an Andrew puzzle, there are 17 different clue types. There's a negative constraint on most, but not all of them. But then there are also S-cells and region sum lines and all of these sorts of things put together into a puzzle that I will not say is easy, but it's certainly easier than all of that would make you think, but that has a lot of non-trivial steps. So actually, I think before I consented to doing this puzzle on stream, I think I asked several people about their thoughts about it. And I think what KNT said was correct, is that none of the steps are monstrous, but there are about 2,000 non-trivial steps in the puzzle. I think that's about correct. Oh. I don't think this can be a 2. Because if this digit's a 2, it would also be in a circle. 2 cells would be in this region, say it's those 2, and these 2 would be in extra regions, which would give us our total of 2 regions. But 2 cells would be in this region. So this cell actually can't be a 2. That's awesome. I really like that. Okay. This is the point. So in column 1 and column 2, there's an S cell down here and an S cell down here. And in column 5, there's an S cell down here. And that is a swordfish. I know there are 3 S cells in the bottom 3 rows in the highlighted cells, so that means these are not S cells. I have always been waiting for someone to use the swordfish on S cells. Maybe because this is an Andrew Sarkis puzzle, I think I probably actually am trying to prove this is a 4, because what happens if this is a 4 is so pathological that it would force a lot of the rest of the puzzle. Okay, let's see. I'm going to try and understand Sam's point. So if that cell is a 4, neither row 8, column 1, nor row 8, column 2 is an S cell. Right? So, okay. So that's a good point. Okay. So if this is a 4, this is a 3-5 pair, which means there's an S cell here, there's an S cell here, there's no S cell down here. So if this is a 4, one consequence of that is that the S cell in this row is exactly here, which now means this is a 3. And so this would have to go 3, 0, 1, and that breaks because of the negative constraint. Okay, yep. This is not a 3 anymore. This cell is no longer able to be an S cell. So now this is 2 or 6. So either that is the S cell or this is the S cell. Those are the only 2 possibilities now. Gorgeous. Well spotted, Afraid Not. One of these 2 is an S cell by this. One of these 2 is an S cell by the column. That is an X-wing on S cells, meaning that these are not S cells. Okay, Andrew has a good point, which is that maybe I should think about this cell some more, because this cell now has to simultaneously be the circle and the square. Let's just pencil mark the bejesus out of this. So it's at least 2, and at most, well, let's imagine that it was 5. That would say there are 5 other regions, and 5 cells from this, that's too many. So this is 2, 3, or 4, and it's not 2. So what we actually have, thank you, Andrew, is we actually have a 3-4 pair here. There's no chance that this does anything interesting with negative constraints, is there? Let's see. Okay, so if this is a 3... Okay. So that's gorgeous. That is really cool. If this is a 3, then this can't be the S cell anymore because it's 3 away. 1, 2, 3. However, if this is a 3, this digit's a 4, in which case this can't be an S cell either because 1, 2, 3, 4. That's really cool. So this is a 4 and this is a 3, which is going to do a lot of damage. This is a puzzle that I think I spent 3.5 hours on stream. It was definitely my puzzle of the week for that week. But at no point during that was I stuck for any appreciable amount of time. It felt like I was making constant forward progress on this really intricately put together puzzle that was just mind-blowing and amazing and crazy and weird, but in all the best ways. I'm not sure I can honestly say I recommend, like if everything I just said makes you want to do the puzzle, then go do the puzzle. If everything I just said makes you not want to do the puzzle, you're probably right and you probably shouldn't. But for me, this is the right way to do crazy weird stuff in Sudoku. I really enjoyed this one. And then on the polar opposite end, but equally at the top of my puzzles of the year, is the butterfly effect. This is, despite the fact that the lines are green, this is a region sublines puzzle, not a German Whispers puzzle. So these are just normal region sublines, no doublers, no anything, just a vanilla region sublines puzzle. But it is jaw-dropping to understand what is happening in this puzzle. Like I mentioned before with the Crusader puzzle of the sort of like figuring out like the penny drop moment where it's like, oh, I understand what's happening, and that's so cool. This puzzle has so many penny drop moments. It's not just one. There's multiple moments of, wait, but that has to work that way, and that has to work that way. And I have no idea how you would set something like this. There are only, 7 lines in the entire puzzle, but there are so many steps that are so cool. So these 2 purple digits, I contend, have to go here exactly in this box. Here's why. If I put one of them on this line, what I'm claiming is that the other 4 digits on this line sum to the other digit, and 4 digits always sum to at least 10. So in fact, actually, these are purple. The purples have to go exactly there. So that's awesome. So the 9 has to go exactly here, which means there's no 9 here, which, because these sum to 14 or 15, means that this can't have a 5 on it either. So these are from 6, 7, 8. And they're either 6, 8 or 7, 8, so there's always an 8 here. So there's no 8 over here at all. So these, again, are summing to 14 or 15. I'm not allowed to use an 8. So if I don't use the 9 over here, that's not going to work out for me. So I need to use the 9. So I can't use the 7, and we're going to use a 6 or a 7 here. Oh, actually, I can't use the 6. Wow, that's amazing. If I use the 6 here, it makes 14, but then it makes this also sum to 14. Okay, really, just take a second just to appreciate the gorgeousness of this setting. If I use the 6 here, I make 14, but then this also is 14, which would then make purple and yellow the same. So I don't use the 6, I use the 7. So that sums to 15, and so this sums to 14. And so because this sums to 14, it's got to be 5 and 9, like that. And so we've got just everything sort of firing up. Okay. This was one of the few times I did a puzzle, and the second I finished the puzzle, I immediately wrote an email to Cracking the Cryptic and said, you just have to do this puzzle. There's no way you don't do this puzzle. And then I was delighted that it appeared the next day. Stupendous work on the setting in this puzzle. You absolutely, if you've not either done this puzzle or watched me do it or watched Simon do it, do all of those things. This puzzle is amazing and deserving of every bit of the plaudits that it got. This is a masterclass in setting, if ever there was one. Absolutely, as Simon says, take a bow on this one. This is like nothing else. So those are my puzzles from this year, my top puzzles. I recommend all of these, but I also want to stress there were a ton of great puzzles this year. I really couldn't let myself go really sort of like beyond this list of puzzles. So please, if none of your puzzles made the list, please don't be offended or think that means I didn't enjoy them. I enjoyed so many puzzles this year. It's been great hanging out with all of you on stream. If you've not seen the stream before, I hope you will come join us. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying doing it. I'm going to still be streaming next year. So I look forward to doing this list again next December, and we'll see what comes up. I know what the things were this year with doublers and S-cells and yin-yang puzzles. I look forward to seeing what the things are this next year. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the new year. Bye for now.